active in the community, church council president, off and on over generations.
Yeah.
And his grandson was my best friend in high school. And they essentially adopted me into their family. And I still am, whenever I visit within their family, I'm still part of their family. When I was baptized, Charlie's son, Charles Jr. Tucker, he was my baptism sponsor, essentially my godfather. So the folks in the community, once you become part of the community, they just take you in as family. So it's just it's a special thing to be adopted. And actually, and that even happened to me whenever I lived up on the Standing Rock Reservation, which is Lakota Sioux. The Hunkpapa people, it's actually the people that Sitting Bull was part of. There was a family there, the Thunderhawk family. I coached basketball up there. We had some successful basketball teams, but the Thunderhawk family adopted me into their family as well. So, I mean, it even happens across tribes that you can get adopted in. So, even though I'm not at all by blood Lakota, I have been adopted into one of their families.
Or a Tucker, but
with a Tucker, that's right, yes, that's right.
Spiritually,
and that's a common thing, in Native communities to do that sort of thing. So,
as I'm finding.
But the draw to come back to here, and we have groups that visit here to the Oaks Indian Mission all the time, donors from different churches and different religious groups across the country that come to visit here. And I do most of the tours, and whenever I talk to them, I tell them that this is sacred ground here. There's a history that goes back at this place for 116 years, but the roots of this, as Dad was saying, goes to the Moravians, that dates back to the 1700s. And so this mission work is 260 years old that working here. And anyone that visits here, anyone that becomes a part of here, this place adopts us with no official ceremony, but it adopts us, and there's that draw to come home, to be here, to be a part of it, and it gets into your blood, it gets into your spirit, and this place is that there's just a special nature to this place that it draws anyone who's been here. It draws everyone back. And that was the thing with me. I wanted to work with the kids here. I wanted to serve the community, the congregation, and I wanted to be a part of that. And so the draw of that to bring me back here to do all of that, because with the background I have in education, even some of my business background, I can put to use here. And if for no other reason, just to simply be an example to these boys that I take care of, that there's nothing that you can't do if you want to accomplish something. It's there for you. The opportunity is yours. And these kids will tell me that no one in their family has ever gone to college. They haven't done anything like that. And I tell them that I was the first in our family that got a degree, and I traveled far from home to do it. But there's nothing that stopped them from doing that. And then so I got my degree, my bachelor's degree, and then Melissa decided that the bachelor's degree was fine, but then blew past that to getting her master's and her doctorate. So, but it's just an example that once that example is set, that hey, we can do anything, then we can.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And the thing about the children that are, even when I was growing up here, or they're living here now, it's still pretty much the same. They're included in, but for some reason the last 10 years or so, that elderly group has passed away. Nobody's willing to fill in their shoes.
Oh no.
They don't want to fill it in their moccasins.
Yeah,
we're losing.
Yeah, and now that's being passed to.
And I think that's why we have such a down deal at school, because we don't have that big, strong community meeting like we used to years ago.
Yeah.
And the responsibility for building that back up is being left to me, Melessa, people who were part of the community in years past. It's up to us now to not just restore the work that we do here, but to continue it and to make it grow.
I just always,
strange to feel like the elder.
Yes, it is.
I always watched him working with these kids all the time, and pretty much just called them my brothers and sisters because they were. Most of them were younger than me, but a couple of the boys he had were always like super big protectors. They're like, "Don't you mess with my sister!" But but it was just a special connection with a lot of these kids. I mean, granted, there is discipline involved, but he never really scolded them to the point of like bringing them down. There were always teaching moments involved with the kids, and I just watched him. Some kids that came here that were super troubled, and by the time they graduated, they were changed kids, or changed, young adults going out into the community. And so many of them now, even after we've been gone from here for a while, they'll always say, when you go back to visit your father, please let him know that we said hi and that he was very instrumental in making me the person I am. Yeah. And if it wasn't for him and his advice and his encouragement, I don't know where I'd be. One, I'd either be in jail or I'd be dead. Those are, part of the outcomes for that.
It's like you coming here to visit. Yeah. When those children were here, I didn't have any problem speaking to any one of them. Any one of them come to me to ask me
They never disrespected
something,
him.
Always, willing to sit and talk.
Yeah.
I would listen.
Yeah.
And I, listen to what they had to say and what they felt, and they would ask me, say, well, what can I do? I said, well, you just got to believe in yourself, okay? You got to believe in yourself. I can't do it for you. I said, your parents can't do it for you. You're at this age, when you become a teenager, you got to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
And that's where it's going to come from. And that's where a lot of the young people get lost. They don't believe that they're worth anything. They don't believe in themselves. So they get involved in alcohol, illegal drugs. The alcohol is going to happen no matter what through the years. But the illegal drugs that are dangerous, they try it and they get a certain type of feeling out of it. I've never been on drugs outside of prescription drugs that I've been given for painkillers, but I'm not I'm not addicted to them. But people have. There's big stories about them right now. People dying from being overdosed on medical drugs.
Even with some of Dr. Lowe's research, they always talk about, how did you guys do it? Like, how did we manage to go away and come back? And sometimes you think about it, and I said, I would just always think back, just keep pushing forward. There's something about it, the internal drive just kept, even though we struggled and being away, and it was very hard because I was in Florida and I really didn't like the big city at all. I always wanted to just come back home, but something just kept pushing me and just saying, just keep going, it'll be okay. Even though I seemed like I went over mountains of obstacles to do it, it was well worth it at the end.
At least the part of this Florida where she moved to and lived, she could be around some Seminole Native Americans. Where Jay went up to Iowa, central Iowa.
No natives whatsoever. There is one small settlement of Sac and Fox. The band is the Meskwaki Indians, and they actually don't have a reservation. They have a settlement. They purchased their own land 150 years ago and created a settlement. But it's only a few hundred people. And ironically, my son, who is 20 years old, works security at their casino. But it is the only Native community that is there at all. So where I went to college at, matter of fact, I was one of the very few people of color at the college that I went to, and that was very odd for me because growing up here, the vast majority of the population here, 80-90%, are Native. Whether they're full bloods or mixed bloods, it's all Native. And so I was a majority here. And so then whenever I went off to college for the first time, I was a minority. and it was the first time that I had experienced that. And with people who had no knowledge of Native communities, I got a lot of questions based in ignorance. I mean, they still thought that we live in teepees. They thought we had, dirt floors, no running water, which it wasn't very many generations ago that was still the case here with the dirt floors and no running water. But I grew up just like they did. I played baseball. I was in band. I did all things that a normal what a normal mainstream society kid would do. But they had no idea what where and plus I had a different accent than them because different parts of this country you run into different dialects, different accents, and so for the first time I learned what it was like to be a minority. But going back to the kids at what they can do, what they can be, and these kids experience when they come here to the Oaks Indian Mission. Most of these kids have not seen parenting that is compassionate or even conscious whatsoever of their needs. And so for the first time, whenever they come here in their lives, they see that they are nurtured, that they're cared for, they're safe. You know, that not just them themselves, but what the possessions they have, that they're protected here. But they learn that there's a different way to look at life, that it's not the generally negative situation that they came from, a hopeless situation, that the entire world is in front of them. They can be anything they want to be. That handling a situation whenever something goes awry, you know, that kids get into a dispute, they they struggle at school, that there's a positive way to handle that. And this is the first time in most of those kids' lives that they have that experience, that this is how it can be approached. And so, you know, our responsibility is not to just care for these kids, but to be an example of what they can be. And I don't often think about that as our responsibility, but just simply living our lives here. And as a house parent here, you know, people ask me what my job is to do. Essentially, my job is to live. I get paid to live and just simply function as a family. And with the boys that are brought into my house, just to demonstrate to them that this is, you know, from the simplest things. This is how we maintain our rooms. This is how we our manners at mealtime. Everything that we do, but it's essentially we get paid to live here, and to be an example of that with the kids. And we raise these boys on the campus as though they were our own kids. And so but these kids, it's foreign to them, and it takes a while sometimes for them to really warm up to that idea. I have kids that, you know, when I first got here, most of the kids didn't even know I was from here. It took them time to learn that I was from here. And I think that the spiritual teaching here is a very important part of what we do, and it took them a while to acclimate to that sort of thing. But most of these kids come from an unchurched background or a different denomination than Lutheran, and so even our church services are foreign to them. But we have 5 boys on campus right now that have requested to be baptized, and I don't know when the last baptism was before I got here, but it's all boys that I either have here or have a lot of contact with. And so some of the things that I talk about, some of the ways that I carry myself, it's starting to carry over to these boys, and not just the ways that they keep their day-to-day lives, but what they're looking at big picture wise, how they want to be spiritually, what type of man they want to grow into. They're starting to catch on to some of that stuff, and it's really fun to see. And it's encouraging whenever you look at that in a big picture way, because from day to day it can get to be a struggle in the daily minutia of the boys getting into disputes and getting into things. Oh, they just broke this, something bad happened. You know, that those things happen day to day, but that's part of the life of being, you know, there's the, you know, boys will be boys, and they all, that's never going to go away for them. So, but we learn how to handle that in a way that something bad happening is not the end of the world. There's always forgiveness. There's always resolution to those sorts of things, and this is how we get to those things. And so, you know, when we look at it in the big picture, it's kind of rewarding. And Jay has to go. Jay has to go. Jay has to go.
Should I get around? I want to turn this camera.